If you've ever casually watched the deaths of nearly 2 million people in 4K while sitting on the toilet in the air conditioning watching a trench grenade state of the world special report, then go ahead and hit that like and subscribe button, guys. Welcome back to the Trench Grenade channel. I am your host, the average special report state of the world update video on the Russo Ukraine war enjoyer that your mom says that we have at home. Thanks for watching. Guys, the purpose of today's video is we are going to be doing a deep dive into the Russo-Ukraine war. I'm going to be going over casualty figures, equipment losses by type, current force strengths, tactical arrangement of forces on the battlefield, some assassinations, some stuff about the Wagner Group, and where I see things ending up and moving forward as the war continues to drive on. Now, all I ask that you do at this point is hit the like button and comment down below your honest thoughts at this point in May of 2025, as the time that this video is being filmed and recorded. What are your current thoughts on the Russo-Ukraine war? Is it a justified war? And more importantly, should the United States be spending money to kill Russians in Ukraine? Because that is ultimately what we're talking about here. Is the United States, okay, cashes a check, and somewhere in Eastern Europe, a battalion of Russians die. So that is ultimately what we're talking about. So like the video, comment down below, and let's dive right into it. Real quick, if you want to support the channel, there's a Patreon. All you got to do is donate $5 a month, and you get access to a private Discord server. Okay. So first and foremost, combat and civilian casualties. This is as of, I believe, May 9th, 2025. Okay, so let's just get right into it. Russian military losses, approximately 964,580 personnel. Okay, I'm going to say that figure again. 964,580 personnel killed or wounded since February of 2022. Okay, so nearly a million soldiers on the Russian side have been killed or wounded. These figures vary based on source, but that is the most accurate figure I can find. Okay, this is the last source I had was the Atlantic Council. All right. Ukrainian military losses estimated 400,000 killed or wounded, with 35,000 missing. I say again, Ukrainian losses are 400,000 killed or wounded, with 35,000 missing. We can pretty much estimate at this point that those missing are either POWs or they have been erased from this earth by MLRS, multiple launch rocket system, and those things take out a grid square. So unfortunately, a lot of that 35,000 number is probably going to be closer to 500,000 losses on the Ukrainian side, if I was to guess. Now, that's just speculation on that last part, of course. But I would venture to I would speculate that nearly 500,000 Ukrainians, based on the figures I'm looking at here, have been lost. Because when you factor in the Ukrainian civilian impact, we know of 12,654 civilians have been killed and 29,392 injured. What my speculation is that Ukraine is reporting a lot of these civilian casualties. Of these 13,000 civilians killed and nearly 30,000 injured, what I'm guessing is a combination of that 35,000 soldiers missing and a lot of these civilian casualties. Even though civilians do get killed in war, I'm guessing a lot of these are military unreported casualties, and their number, I'm guessing, is probably going to be somewhere between 500,000 and 600,000 on the Ukrainian side. So, all in all, nearly a million lost on the Russian side, and nearly 500,000 to 600,000 would be my speculation on the Ukrainian side. Keep in mind, over 6.7 million Ukrainians have fled the country, okay, with millions more internally displaced inside of Ukraine. So, some pretty significant figures there. Guys, just leave a fire emoji down below, because that is what this is ultimately turning into, just a hellhole of destruction. Let's get into some equipment losses by type. For the Russians, okay, they have lost 10,780 tanks lost. That includes T-72s, T-80s, and T-90s, with the vast majority of that 10,780 being T-80s and T-72 main battle tanks. That is an insane amount of armor to lose on the battlefield. And it's not over yet. But I say again, 10,780 T 72s, T 80s, and T 90s. That is a massive amount of armor. Hey, Google, how much does a T 72 main battle tank cost in the US dollars roughly?
Sure, here's some helpful information I found on the web.
All right, guys, we're looking at several million, right? Several million
I
dollars.
don't know, but I
Hey,
found
Google,
this
stop.
result.
So we're looking at several million. I don't have the figure right in front of me because it's just leading into a whole article. But for a single T 72 tank, we're talking about several $1 million. And they've lost 10,000, nearly 11,000 of them. And that is the outdated model, with most of those being T 80s. Moving on. They've lost. This is going to be kind of confusing. Okay, so BTRs, BMPs, and Gaz Tigers. Okay, so BTRs, which is like, and BMPs are the tracked version. BTRs are wheeled, and Gaz Tigers are their version of like our, not Humvee, but more like our JLTVs. Okay, they've lost 22,419 armored fighting vehicles, okay? APCs, armored personnel carriers, Gaz Tigers, BMP 3s, BMP 2s, BTR 80s, and BTR 70s. You can Google the specifics on all those. That is a massive amount of armor, okay? So you take in the 11,000 tanks and 22,000. So 10,780 tanks and 22,419 armored fighting vehicles. That is a massive amount of armor, guys. All right. Artillery systems, they've lost 27,502 artillery pieces lost, 372 aircraft. Several of those aircraft were their airborne forces that were dropped, attempted to be dropped into Ukraine. They got shot out of the sky. A lot of those are jets. Okay. Moving on to helicopters, they've lost 335 helicopters, with the vast majority of their attack helicopter fleet, those are alligators, being shot down. Okay, so 335 helicopters and 372 combination of their equivalent of the C-130 and um, I'm drawing a blank, MiG 29s. Okay, moving on, unmanned UAVs. Okay, unmanned aerial vehicles. I have here 35,266 UAVs lost. That is insane. Moving on to Ukraine, they have lost approximately 1,100 tanks. Now you guys see what I'm talking about as far as the propaganda here. If that either NATO equipment is that much better, because that's literally 10 to 1, right? For every one tank Ukraine loses, they lose 10 Russian tanks. But based on my sources here, okay, um, based on my sources here, that is a 10 to 1 ratio of every 10 tanks killed, almost 11, really, based on these figures. Yeah, every 11 tanks or APCs killed by the it almost well see okay, so what I'm factoring in here, guys, because the main battle tanks lost by Ukraine is 1,100, and the armor personnel carriers lost by Ukraine is 4,400. So you got to factor in the 4,400 APCs lost by Ukraine to the 22,419 lost by Russia. Either there's inaccurate reporting, or the NATO Bradleys and the BMPs used, the crews used by Ukraine, and the crews, these tank crews that Ukraine has, are literally killing almost 12 to 13 enemy vehicles for every one that they're losing. That is more than the Sherman versus Tiger in World War II, just to give you guys some perspective. For aircraft, there are no reports for aircraft or fixed wing losses on NATO. That doesn't mean they haven't lost any, that just means they're literally not reporting it. All right, force strength. Moving on. The Russian armed forces currently have, for active duty, they have 1.15 million active duty military personnel that are still alive in uniform right now. 1.15 million for the Russian forces. As far as how many of that makes up their ground forces, approximately 550, 100,000 troops. Okay, that is the a large bulk of that number is conscripts and contract soldiers. Now, that means Wagner Group. Okay, what remains of it is no longer flagged as Wagner Group, but they are conscripts and contract soldiers, roughly 550, 100,000 there, a little over 500,000, right? Reserve forces, okay, for the Russian forces, 2 million reservists, okay, but their readiness and training levels are very poor. Even below that of the conscripts. So just because they're reporting to have 2 million reservists on top of the 1.15 million total active duty, with only 500,000 of that in total number being ground forces. Well, they're reporting of having an additional 2 million reservists, but their readiness is below that of the regular conscript. And we have seen conscripts being issued Mosins in some scenarios, right, during the initial invasion days. So just keep that in mind, even though Russia is reporting to have 2 million reservists on standby and ready, their readiness is poor, very poor. Moving on to Ukraine, they have approximately 500,000 active duty military personnel still in uniform. Okay, so 500,000 remaining, with an estimate of 250,000 ground force troops. Okay, that includes a mix of professional soldiers and mobilized reservists. So, all that to say, they have 250,000 ground forces left to fight versus the 550, 500,000. So literally double that for the Russian forces. Okay, there are 400,000 Ukrainian reservists who have been activated to add to that number. But keep in mind, the Ukrainian reservists may or may not have a high, I would say, discipline per those soldiers, to put it lightly. All right, I have here something that you guys might find interesting. For the average Russian squad, for a typical motorized rifle platoon, I figured you guys might find this interesting. Is 3 rifle squads. That those rifle squads will consist of a squad leader, 7 to 8 soldiers, including a rifleman, machine gunner, and grenadiers. They will ride in 3 infantry fighting vehicles. Those are BMP 2s, BMP 3s, BTR 70s, BTR 80s, or a assortment of Gaz Tigers, and a platoon headquarters squad. Now, the typical Russian platoon is going to consist of roughly 30 soldiers. The reason why I bring that up is they're equipped with AK 74s and a 1 PKM machine gun per platoon. The reason I bring all that up is a lot of these Ukrainian forces are using Bradley fighting vehicles and are outfitted with javelins, Stugna Ps, okay, and they're using Striker vehicles from the United States Army, courtesy of the United States Army. So I say all that to say, and I have on here a very significant amount of M4s, the old M4 carbines, have been issued, as well as obviously those Javelin rockets, right, and M203 grenade launchers. So at this point, the average Ukrainian squad is very well equipped. Okay. I want to move on here to some key assassinations, because this kind of out shows how the Ukrainians have been conducting business. Whether you agree with it or disagree with it, this is just the facts. Lieutenant General, I'm going to butcher this, Yaroslav Maskalik. Okay, Maskalik. There you go. Deputy Chief of Main Operations Directorate of Russian General Staff, was killed in a car bomb near Moscow on April 25th, 2025. Lieutenant General Igor Kurilov, head of Russia's radiological, chemical, and biological defense troops, was assassinated in Moscow in December of 2024. And Armen Sargaznian, the leader of the pro-Russian Arbat battalion from the Donetsk region, was killed in a Moscow bombing in February 2025. So 3 key assassinations that the Ukrainians have conducted on the Russians. That is significant, right? With 2 of those being lieutenant general rank and the leader of the Russian Arbat battalion from I can't speak right now, guys. Donetsk, okay? All killed in Moscow in bombings. Okay, well, one was shot, but two killed in a bombing, and one was shot. One of those was a car bomb. All right, moving on to the Wagner defection. As you guys know, um, the Prigozhin issue was very controversial. In June of 2023, basically, to just condense this very brief, right? Prigozhin attempted to take over Moscow, right? And he stopped short with his Wagner forces. That is a private military contract group. And later on August 23rd of 2023, Prigozhin died in a very, very suspicious plane crash. And I think we all know who is probably at fault for that. But just understand that that caused a lot of Wagner soldiers to be very suspiciously deleted from existence or folded into the Russian conscript forces. Okay, so that is significant. Last thing I want to cover here is a unconditional ceasefire that was announced today. Okay, so essentially the ceasefire proposal that happened today. Today is the 10th, not the 9th. May 10th, 2025. President Zelensky, alongside European leaders and the United States President Donald Trump, proposed a 30-day unconditional ceasefire starting on May 12th. Russia has not responded favorably yet. Okay? Now, I say that to say that there have been no successful ceasefires at this point in the war. Okay, so I'm skeptical if this 30-day ceasefire will actually hold, but we will see. Keep in mind, Zelensky has a no surrender decree that he announced earlier on in the war. Okay, so just keep all these facts in mind that we discussed here tonight, and understand that moving forward, we don't exactly, we don't exactly know how this thing is going to end up at the time of filming this video, right? So if you got this far, guys, this should just serve as a special report on the Russo-Ukraine war. Bear with me as I could had some you know trouble with some of the names there, but I think this will outline the point that I'm trying to get, is that it's been a bloody war on both sides and massive losses have occurred. And I think I'm of the opinion that the fighting should stop, and that every day that goes by is is a massive waste in human life. Okay, but post your thoughts down below, guys. Thanks for being here. And until next time, it's going to be Trench Grenade, your average State of the World special report video enjoyer. Your mom says we have it home, signing out. Cheers.